They beat my mom. She's dying. The cleaning cart's wheels rattled to a stop. The floor smelled like hot metal and disinfectant. Somewhere above them, something heavy locked into place. Too clean, too controlled for an accident. Marcus Thorne looked down at the little girl who'd crashed into him, her designer sneakers squeaking against the wet industrial surface. Blood spattered her white dress. Tears streaked her face, but her eyes burned with desperate determination. "Please," she gasped, tiny hands gripping his gray work uniform. "The soldiers hurt Mommy really bad. She won't wake up." Marcus felt every muscle in his body coil tight. Around them, the factory's hydraulic systems hissed and groaned, conveyor belts humming their endless rhythm. But he heard something else. Footsteps echoing from the glass-walled executive offices 6 floors above. Heavy boots. Same cadence. Same cut corners. Professionals. He set his watch to T15. 00. "Emma, I'll be back before this hits 0. "Ask nicely first," he murmured to himself. "Break things only if they insist." Marcus knelt to the child's eye level, his calloused hands steady on her shoulders. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Emma." She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "Emma Steele. My mommy runs the factory. She told me to find the shadow man who cleans at night. The security guy says you're always one step ahead, like you vanish into the walls. She told me to find the ghost man who cleans at night." The hydraulics went dead, too clean to be a glitch. Marcus's trained ear caught the subtle change. Someone had shut down the machinery on the executive level, creating a sterile environment for interrogation, or execution. Marcus pulled out his phone, fingers moving with practiced precision as he started a 15-minute countdown timer. He set his watch to T15, 00. The blue glow reflected off his watch face, the same tactical timepiece he'd worn in Kandahar, carefully hidden under his sleeve for 3 years. "Emma, I need you to be very brave for me. Can you do that?" She nodded, her chin trembling. "Good girl, because we're going to go save your mommy." Marcus stood, his eyes scanning the industrial maze around them with new purpose. And those soldiers upstairs have no idea what they just walked into. 6 floors up, Victoria Steele was running out of time. Marcus guided Emma behind a massive steel support beam, his maintenance keycard already in his hand. The little plastic rectangle opened doors throughout the facility, access most janitors never received. He'd always wondered why Human Resources had approved such extensive clearance for a night cleaner. Steel Industries ran a veteran's first pilot, dual-role custodial security cross-access for after-hours contingencies. Now he understood. Some part of Victoria Steele had recognized what he was. Even when he'd buried it so deep, he'd almost forgotten himself. The service elevator shuddered as it climbed toward the executive level. Through the shaft's steel grating, Marcus counted heat signatures moving behind the frosted glass of the CEO's office. 6 forms, all large, all moving with the efficient choreography of a professional extraction team. "Stay right here," he whispered to Emma, positioning her in the elevator's blind spot. "If anyone comes who isn't me or your mommy, you press this button and go straight to the basement. Promise me." "I promise." Her voice was small but firm. "Are you going to hurt the bad men?" Marcus checked his watch. 13 minutes left on his countdown. Whatever was happening upstairs, it had a deadline. These weren't random criminals. They were operators with a timeline and an exit strategy. "Only if they don't leave your mommy alone," he said. The truth simple and clean. "I'm going to go ask them nicely first." Through the executive floor's ventilation grating, Marcus watched the nightmare unfold in Victoria Steele's office. The CEO sat zip-tied to her leather desk chair, blood trickling from a cut above her left eye. Her designer blazer was torn, but her spine remained straight, defiant. 3 men in tactical gear surrounded her while a 4th worked at her computer terminal. The 5th stood watch at the office door. The 6th, clearly their leader, held a small recording device near Victoria's face. "The access codes, Miss Steele. Your cooperation determines how quickly this ends." Victoria's voice came through the steel grating, steady despite her circumstances. "Go to hell." Marcus recognized the setup. Professional interrogation. These weren't thieves after money or random corporate espionage. They wanted something specific from Victoria's defense contracts, something worth torturing a CEO in her own building. The leader checked his expensive tactical watch, the same model as Marcus's. Military precision. A faded unit patch on his sleeve caught Marcus's eye. Same recon insignia he'd worn. A brother turned sellout, trading oaths for contracts. Marcus noted the synchronized timing, the way they moved in practiced formation. Former special operations, definitely. But working for whom? "You have 10 minutes to reconsider," the leader told Victoria. "After that, we expand our conversation to include your daughter." Marcus's jaw clenched. They weren't here just for information. They were here to erase. Back in the service elevator, Emma clutched a small plastic toy soldier to her chest. Her grandfather's gift, Marcus realized, noting the careful way she held it, like a talisman. "My grandpa gave this to me," she whispered when she caught him looking. "He said soldiers protect people who can't protect themselves. He didn't come home." Marcus felt the familiar ache of recognition. How many times had his own daughter Alice asked when Daddy would be home from his cleaning job? How many bedtime stories had he missed? How many school plays? How many simple Tuesday dinners? All to maintain the fiction, all to stay invisible. "Your soldier looks very brave," Marcus said, kneeling beside her. "I bet he's protected you lots of times." Emma nodded solemnly. "Daddy says brave people aren't the ones who aren't scared. Brave people are the ones who do the right thing, even when they are scared." Marcus stared at the 8-year-old, who just delivered the most accurate definition of courage he'd ever heard from the mouths of babes. "Emma, I'm going to need you to be my lookout. That means you watch for danger and warn me if anything changes. Think you can handle that mission?" Her eyes brightened with purpose. "Yes, sir." "Good, because we're about to give those soldiers upstairs a lesson about what happens when you threaten our families." 8-year-old Emma Steele was about to become a soldier's spotter. Marcus opened his maintenance kit with methodical precision. He'd swapped the stock contents years ago. His real go bag stayed in a locked janitorial locker, rotated every quarter like muscle memory. To anyone watching, it looked like standard janitorial supplies: cleaning solvents, industrial tape, basic tools. But Marcus saw tactical applications for every item. The pipe wrench became an impact weapon. The industrial zip ties could restrain or create tripwires. The cleaning solvents, properly mixed, could create smoke screens or disable electronic equipment. 3 years of forced invisibility had taught him to weaponize the mundane. He stripped off his outer work shirt, revealing the lean muscle of a man who'd never stopped training. His body bore faint scars that told stories he'd never shared with anyone in his civilian life. Stories that were about to matter again. "My daddy has marks like those," Emma whispered, touching a thin white line on his forearm. "From when he protected people." Marcus smiled grimly. "Another military family. Victoria Steele hired veterans, gave them second chances, treated them with dignity. The kind of CEO who learned her janitors' names and said, 'Thank you for work.' Most executives never noticed. No wonder someone wanted her dead." Marcus checked his watch. T, 10 o'clock. Enough to fail if he got fancy. 10 minutes remaining. Time to remind 6 professional soldiers why Force Recon Marines never truly retire. The shadow was lifting. The Marine was back. Victoria Steele had built her empire one calculated risk at a time. The defense contracts came with hazards most CEOs never faced: classified technology, government oversight, corporate espionage attempts. But she'd never imagined torture in her own boardroom. Black Raven Security, BRX, offered you $60 million for our drone guidance patents. The mercenary leader continued, his voice clinical. "You declined, twice. Our employers find your patriotism inconvenient." Blood dripped from Victoria's split lip onto her silk blouse. "Those patents keep American soldiers alive. I won't hand them to the highest bidder." Through the ventilation shaft, the pattern was obvious. PMCs after guidance tech, not cash. Private military contractors wanted technology they could sell to anyone willing to pay. Victoria's refusal to compromise national security had signed her death warrant. "Your principles are admirable, Miss Steele, but principles don't protect your daughter when accidents happen." Victoria's composure cracked for the first time. "Emma has nothing to do with this. Emma has everything to do with this. Children make excellent motivators." The leader gestured to one of his men, who produced a tablet displaying school pickup schedules, soccer practice times, Emma's daily routine mapped with military precision. They'd been planning this operation for months. Victoria Steele had said no to the wrong people. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Chen. "Alice, finished dinner. Homework done. Prayers said. Sweet dreams to Daddy." the nightly ritual that kept his world stable. Alice never went to bed without knowing her father was thinking of her. Tonight, she'd have to sleep without that assurance. Marcus silenced his phone, but kept the photo of Alice visible on the screen. His anchor, his purpose, the reason he'd spent 3 years perfecting the art of invisibility. Alice Thorne had no idea her janitor dad was once a Force Recon Marine. Victoria's leadership style had earned loyalty throughout steel industries, especially among the veterans she actively recruited. Former military personnel appreciated her directness, her respect for chain of command, her willingness to trust people with second chances. She'd learned these values from her own father, Colonel James Steele, whose photo still occupied the corner of her desk. Military families understood sacrifice, honor, the weight of protecting others. They also understood the cost of compromise. "Thank you," she told Marcus just last week when he'd stayed late to repair a leak in the executive washroom. 2 simple words most executives never bothered with, but they'd mattered to a man accustomed to being overlooked. "Ma'am," he'd replied with a respectful nod, the automatic response of a soldier acknowledging an officer. She'd caught the formality, filed it away with other small observations that suggested more depth than a janitor's resume typically revealed. Now, zip-tied to her chair with professional killers demanding classified technology, Victoria realized those instincts had been correct. Something about Marcus Thorne had always seemed different. Victoria never knew how much those thank yous meant to a warrior in hiding. Both single parents navigated the same daily battlefield: school pickup schedules, parent-teacher conferences, bedtime stories that had to wait for work emergencies. Different circumstances, identical challenges. Victoria's nanny handled Emma's afternoon routine, but she still read bedtime stories every night via video call when business trips ran late. Alice waited for Marcus to come home from his second-shift job, their evening ritual sacred despite his exhaustion. "Daddy, why do you work at night?" Alice had asked months ago. "Because important places need protecting when everyone else goes home," he'd answered, true enough, if incomplete. Victoria had asked herself similar questions about work-life balance. How much was too much? When did protecting your company's mission become abandoning your child's needs? Unbeknownst to them, their daughters, Alice and Emma, shared the same classroom and soccer field, 2 kids from military families already bound by invisible threads. Marcus descended through the building's maintenance levels, moving through spaces invisible to most employees: service tunnels, mechanical rooms, electrical closets, the hidden infrastructure that kept steel industries operational. He'd memorized every access point during 3 years of methodical cleaning. Fire exits, emergency protocols, building schematics filed away with the tactical precision of a man who'd once infiltrated enemy compounds. Now that knowledge served a different mission. The executive floor's ventilation system connected to the manufacturing level through a series of maintenance shafts, large enough for a man to move through. Defensible choke points, multiple exit strategies. The factory Marcus had cleaned every night was about to become his battlefield. Through the building's steel skeleton, he heard the distant hum of the night shift, skeleton crew handling automated production lines, security guards walking predictable patrol routes, a few engineers pulling late hours in the research wing, innocent people who'd become collateral damage if this situation escalated beyond the executive floor. Marcus had memorized every exit. Soon, he'd need them all. The wrench slipped from the overhead pipe, tumbling toward the concrete floor. Without thinking, Marcus snatched it from the air, a lightning-fast reflex that would have impressed his old drill sergeant. Then he caught himself, letting the tool clatter noisily beside his boot. "Clumsy," he muttered, loud enough for the passing foreman to hear. 3 years of this performance. 3 years of deliberately fumbling tasks he could complete flawlessly, moving slowly through jobs that should take half the time, asking questions about procedures he understood better than most supervisors. The hardest part wasn't the manual labor, it was suppressing 20 years of muscle memory. Every instinct screamed efficiency, precision, tactical awareness. Instead, he shuffled through his shifts like a man grateful for simple work, invisible by design. But invisibility required constant vigilance. One slip, one moment of natural competence, and background checks would follow. Questions about employment gaps, explanations for skills that didn't match his resume, questions that could cost him Alice. Every day was an acting performance. Today the curtain was about to fall. Victoria paused in the hallway, ostensibly reviewing quarterly reports on her tablet. In reality, she was watching the night janitor work 3 offices down. Something about his movements nagged at her executive instincts, the same intuition that had built Steel Industries from a small defense contractor into a major player. He cleaned crime scene photographs with unusual care, she'd noticed. Most maintenance staff avoided the law enforcement training materials scattered around her security consultant's office. This man studied them, processed them with the focus of someone who understood their significance. When he repaired broken equipment, his hands moved with surgical precision. No wasted motion, no trial and error. He diagnosed problems faster than certified technicians, then deliberately slowed his repairs to match expected timelines. And he never, ever seemed startled by sudden noises, security doors slamming, alarms testing, machinery backfiring. While others jumped or turned, the janitor simply continued working, as if loud, unexpected sounds were normal background noise in his world. Victoria's CEO instincts were triggering. Something about this man didn't add up. The classified manufacturing wing hummed with automated precision behind reinforced steel doors, drone guidance systems, encrypted communication arrays, targeting software, technology that kept American forces ahead of their enemies, technology worth killing for. Marcus's keycard granted access to these restricted areas, officially for cleaning purposes. Unofficially, it revealed the scope of Victoria's operation. This wasn't just a factory, it was a fortress of industrial secrets that major powers would pay billions to acquire. His trained eye automatically cataloged defensive positions, choke points, evacuation routes. The facility's security was impressive, but designed for external threats. Corporate espionage, foreign intelligence services, terrorist attacks from outside. No one had planned for internal compromise. Professional operators with inside knowledge, building schematics, employee schedules. The kind of intelligence that turned fortress walls into paper barriers. As he mopped past motion sensors and security cameras recording everything in the tactical database of his mind, one truth crystallized. This building had been surveilled for months. Someone had provided detailed intelligence about personnel, procedures, vulnerabilities. Someone had sold out Victoria Steel. The janitor's mental facility map would soon become crucial for survival. 3 blocks away, Sullivan sat in a rented surveillance van, eyes on a dossier labeled Minimal Threat, Janitor. The uplink piggybacked on the plant's old maintenance Wi-Fi, good until the EM noise spike turned it into snow. Photos showed a gray uniform, lowered head, routine routes. Nothing memorable. He'd profiled the guns and the guards. He hadn't profiled a ghost. Emma's school photo smiled from Victoria's desk as the interrogation entered its second hour. The mercenary leader had methodically escalated from verbal threats to physical persuasion, but Victoria's military upbringing had prepared her for pressure that broke weaker executives. "Your daughter plays soccer on Tuesdays," he said conversationally, scrolling through surveillance photos on his tablet. "Coach Martinez, 4:30 practice, Riverside Elementary. Very predictable schedule." Victoria's composure cracked slightly. "Leave her out of this." "That depends entirely on your cooperation. The access codes, Miss Steele. Don't make this more complicated than necessary." 6 floors below, unaware of the specific threats against his boss's family, the night janitor continued his methodical rounds. But his internal countdown had shifted from routine timing to operational urgency. In 8 minutes, Alice would call to say goodnight, their nightly ritual that anchored his civilian identity. If he missed that call, she'd worry. If he missed it twice, she'd call Mrs. Chen. If Mrs. Chen couldn't reach him, she'd call 911. A simple family routine was about to collide with a military operation. The clock had started running. The building's nerve center occupied the basement level, electrical systems, communication arrays, environmental controls. Marcus had cleaned these spaces nightly for 3 years, absorbing technical knowledge that officially exceeded his clearance level. Tonight, that forbidden education became tactical advantage. Emergency lockdown protocols would seal all exits for 12 hours once triggered. Backup power systems could run for 72 hours if main power failed. Internal communication networks operated on isolated servers, immune to external interference but vulnerable to physical sabotage. Most importantly, the facility's automated production lines could be weaponized with the right knowledge. Industrial machinery designed to shape metal and circuit boards could reshape human anatomy with equal efficiency. The operators upstairs had planned for resistance from security personnel and corporate executives. They hadn't planned for a janitor who understood the building's infrastructure better than its own engineers. Their tactical superiority was about to become irrelevant. Alice's bedtime call came through at exactly 9:47 p.m., as it had every night for 3 years. Her sleepy voice carried through the phone speaker, anchoring the man in gray coveralls to the father identity he'd built from necessity. "Daddy, did you remember to eat dinner?" "Yes, sweetheart. Mrs. Chen made her special noodles." The lie came easily. He'd eaten nothing since breakfast, too focused on maintaining his invisible routine to notice hunger. "I finished my homework, drew a picture of you at work. You're wearing a cape." Despite everything, the violence brewing upstairs, the timeline compressing around him, the life he'd carefully constructed about to explode, Marcus smiled. In Alice's 9-year-old imagination, her father was already a superhero. "That sounds perfect, honey. Sweet dreams." "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too." He ended the call and immediately switched the phone to silent mode. The father could rest now. The Marine had work to do. The building's fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows through the industrial maze he'd navigated as a ghost for 1,000 nights. Tonight would be different. Tonight the ghost would become solid, visible, lethal. Tonight 6 professional killers would learn why some janitors shouldn't be underestimated. The hydraulic failure began as a low groan in the building's mechanical systems, then escalated to a violent shudder that rattled windows 6 floors up. Emergency lighting flickered on as primary power diverted to backup systems. A cascading malfunction that appeared random but followed the precise sequence of a man who understood industrial infrastructure. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes, filling the executive level's hallway with concealing vapor. Fire suppression alarms screamed their warnings while sprinkler systems engaged, transforming polished corridors into tactical confusion. "What the hell?" One mercenary started, then stopped as his radio crackled with static interference. Their communications package had been designed for external operations, not internal industrial environments where electromagnetic fields from heavy machinery could disrupt frequencies. The building itself was fighting back. Through the chaos, a maintenance worker materialized from the service elevator, coveralls soaked, tool belt clanking, moving with the unhurried pace of someone responding to routine mechanical failure, just another invisible employee dealing with another industrial accident. The mercenaries never saw the pipe wrench until it connected with the first man's skull. Victoria's eyes fluttered open to see her janitor moving like liquid death. The second operative spun toward the attack, assault rifle rising, but found himself facing empty air. The maintenance worker had vanished back into the steam, leaving his partner unconscious on the marble floor. "Ghost contact level 6. The team leader barked into his radio. "Unknown hostile, extreme close quarters capability." His tactical training identified the threat profile. Someone with advanced hand-to-hand skills, intimate building knowledge, ability to exploit infrastructure for tactical advantage. Not a security guard or corporate executive. This was a professional. The steam began clearing as emergency ventilation engaged, revealing scattered tools and an overturned cleaning cart. No sign of their attacker except wet footprints leading in 3 different directions, a deliberate confusion pattern that spoke of counter-surveillance training. "Sullivan, what's your read on the maintenance crew?" the leader demanded. Static answered him. Their external surveillance team had gone dark, communication links severed by the same electromagnetic interference disrupting their tactical network. They were alone in a hostile environment, facing an unknown operator who controlled the terrain. The remaining 4 mercenaries just upgraded their threat assessment from minimal to eliminate immediately. In the CEO's private bathroom, behind locked doors that provided temporary sanctuary, emergency medical training took precedence over tactical concerns. Victoria's injuries were more severe than adrenaline had initially masked. Possible concussion, definite internal trauma, blood pressure dropping toward dangerous levels. "Hold still," the janitor instructed, his voice carrying authority that cut through her disorientation. Calloused hands moved with surgical precision, checking pupil response, palpating for internal bleeding, improvising medical assessment with cleaning supplies repurposed as diagnostic tools. "You're going into shock," he continued, stripping off his work shirt to fashion a compression bandage. "Pulse is thready, breathing shallow. How's your vision?" "Blurry." Who are you? Victoria managed, consciousness fighting to stay focused. Someone who knows field medicine. He avoided the larger question while applying pressure to her injured ribs. You need a hospital, but those men won't let that happen, so we improvise. The medical kit concealed in his cleaning cart contained supplies that exceeded standard first aid, trauma dressings, IV fluids, medications that weren't available over the counter, equipment that suggested preparation for this exact scenario or experience with battlefield casualties. Victoria's trained eye recognized military medical protocols even through her pain-induced fog. This wasn't a janitor who'd taken a first aid course. Without treatment, she had maybe 20 minutes before irreversible damage set in. The explosion shattered the executive floor's main conference room, sending glass cascading into the hallway where the mercenaries had regrouped. Not enough to cause serious injury, but sufficient to demonstrate that their quarry possessed demolitions knowledge alongside close-quarters combat skills. Facility lockdown initiated, an automated voice announced through the building's PA system. All personnel remain in current positions. Emergency services have been notified. Steel barriers slam shut over windows and exits, electromagnetic locks engaging with the finality of a tomb ceiling. The 12-hour security protocol that protected classified technology during external threats had been activated from within. No escape, no rescue, no witnesses. The leader checked his tactical chronometer, a device identical to the one worn by their invisible opponent, though he didn't yet understand the significance of that connection. "We finish this now," he ordered his remaining team. Thorne showed advanced capabilities, but he's still one man against 4 operators. We have superior firepower, military training, professional experience. What he didn't know was that the man hunting them had all those advantages plus 3 years to study the battlefield, intimate knowledge of every choke point and blind spot, and nothing left to lose. The lockdown had eliminated their exit strategy, but it had also eliminated their target's options for avoiding confrontation. Final engagement was no longer a choice. It was inevitable. Emma huddled in the service elevator, clutching her toy soldier, while adult violence erupted above her. The building's emergency lighting cast strange shadows that transformed familiar spaces into alien landscapes, but she held her position with the discipline of a child whose father had taught her about following orders during dangerous situations. "Alice," she whispered into the phone her protector had given her. "Are you there?" "I'm here," came the reply through static interference. "Daddy said to stay on the line no matter what. He said you're very brave." 2 children, miles apart, connected by radio and circumstance, providing emotional anchor for a man who'd spent 3 years hiding from exactly this kind of situation. Family had always been his weakness and his strength, the vulnerability that enemies could exploit, the motivation that made him unstoppable. "Is your daddy coming to help my mommy?" "My daddy helps people," Alice said with the simple faith of a 9-year-old who'd never seen her father fail at anything important. "He'll fix everything." In the chaos above, surrounded by professional killers and industrial warfare, that childish confidence felt like a sacred trust, a promise that couldn't be broken. The facility's automated manufacturing systems hummed with mechanical purpose, assembly lines producing components for classified defense projects, even as violence erupted in the executive levels. Robotic arms welded precision joints, while conveyor belts carried half-finished electronics toward completion, all of it controlled by computer systems accessible to anyone with administrative privileges, or someone who'd spent 3 years learning the building's technical infrastructure under the guise of routine maintenance. Emergency protocols were designed to protect classified technology from external threats. They weren't programmed to distinguish between authorized security measures and sabotage initiated by someone with legitimate access credentials. The man in gray coveralls moved through automated production areas like a conductor orchestrating a mechanical symphony. A few keystrokes here, some rewired connections there, minor adjustments that would transform precision manufacturing equipment into something far more dangerous. The mercenaries had superior weapons and training, but they were fighting in an environment where the terrain itself could be weaponized by someone who understood its hidden potential. Machines that bend steel can bend bone. Fast, cold, silent. 4 o'clock elapsed since first contact. No speeches, no mistakes. Standard operational planning assumed civilian resistance would collapse within the first quarter hour. Fear and shock overwhelming any instinct to fight back. Instead, their target had escalated from defensive action to offensive capabilities, demonstrating skills that suggested extensive military training. Worse, he'd managed to isolate them from external support while maintaining communication with unknown allies. "We're dealing with a professional," the team leader admitted over their compromised radio network. "Possibly special operations background, definitely someone with advanced tactical training." His remaining operators acknowledged the threat assessment revision, weapons ready, formation tightened for mutual support. 4 against 1 should still favor the team with superior firepower, but the building's industrial maze had become enemy territory, filled with blind corners, concealed positions, and mechanical hazards that their opponent could exploit, while they had to advance through unknown terrain. The hunter had become the hunted, and their prey controlled the hunting ground. Marcus looked at the sealed exits and smiled grimly through the steam and emergency lighting. Now it was an even fight. The transformation was complete. Gone were the shuffling steps and apologetic posture of the night custodian. In their place stood something harder, more focused, a predator moving through familiar territory with lethal purpose. From his improvised command post in the building's main electrical room, the former Marine coordinated multiple tactical operations simultaneously. Security cameras provided real-time intelligence on enemy positions. Environmental controls became weapon systems. Communication arrays connected him to external allies. "Alice, status report." He spoke quietly into his headset. "All clear here, Daddy. Emma's being very brave." "Good girl. Patch me through to building security." The power dynamic had inverted completely. 4 professional operators found themselves trapped in a facility controlled by someone who understood every system, every weakness, every advantage the environment could provide. Victoria watched this transition with the recognition of one warrior acknowledging another. She'd commanded Marines in Afghanistan, had seen that same focused intensity under fire. This wasn't a janitor who'd learned some self-defense moves. This was a special operations veteran in his element. "Colonel Steele's daughter," the voice said with quiet respect when Victoria finally spoke into the communications headset. "I served under your father in Kandahar. 3rd Tour FOB Chapman." Her hand trembled once against the headset, then stilled. Breath in, control back on. "He saved my unit when we were pinned down by sniper fire. Talked us through a tactical withdrawal that got everyone home alive." His hands never stopped working. Medical supplies, tactical preparation, systematic organization of resources. Said something I never forgot. Real leaders serve their people, not the other way around. Tears mixed with blood on Victoria's face. Her father had died 3 years ago, shortly before she'd hired this particular maintenance worker. The timing wasn't coincidence. "You came here because of him." He mentioned having a daughter who was building something worth protecting. Defense contracts that kept good soldiers alive instead of corporate profits that got them killed. The operator, she couldn't think of him as a janitor anymore, met her eyes with steady acknowledgement. Figured someone with those values might need backup eventually. The respect in his voice carried 20 years of military protocol, enlisted man to officer's family, 2 veterans against 4 mercenaries. The odds were getting better. The children's voices crackled through the tactical communications network, transforming from potential victims into operational assets. Emma's position in the service elevator provided eyes on enemy movement patterns. Alice's connection to external communication allowed coordination with emergency services. Bad men moving toward the big machines. Emma reported with the seriousness of an 8-year-old soldier. 3 of them. "The hurt one isn't moving." "Copy that, sweetheart. Stay hidden until I give the all clear." Miles away, Alice coordinated with Mrs. Chen to contact federal authorities, not local police who might be compromised, but military contacts from her father's service record who could mobilize appropriate response teams. "Daddy, the Army people said they're sending help," Alice transmitted, "but it'll take 40 minutes to get there." 40 minutes. Long enough for professional killers to complete their mission and establish extraction. Too long to wait for rescue. The family unit had become a tactical team, each member contributing capabilities suited to their age and position. But ultimately, success depended on one man's ability to neutralize superior numbers in close-quarters combat. Emma held the radio like a sacred artifact. "Alice, tell Daddy we're ready." The factory's production floor had been transformed into a multi-level battlefield, with catwalks and machinery creating vertical combat zones that favored defenders who knew the terrain. Emergency lighting cast harsh shadows between massive equipment, while automated assembly lines continued their mechanical rhythms, industrial cover and concealment for anyone skilled enough to exploit them. The mercenaries advanced in practiced formation, suppressed weapons ready, night vision engaged, professional military tactics applied to corporate extraction. They'd perform similar operations in dozens of countries against targets ranging from hostile governments to rival corporations. But they'd never fought in an environment where the infrastructure itself had been weaponized against them. Conveyor belts suddenly reversed direction, sending metal components tumbling toward advancing operators. Robotic assembly arms swiveled beyond normal parameters, creating moving obstacles that disrupted tactical movement. Hydraulic systems engaged without warning, transforming stable surfaces into crushing hazards. The building had become an extension of its defenders' tactical capabilities. "He's using the manufacturing systems against us," the team leader reported to his remaining operators. Industrial equipment reprogrammed for anti-personnel applications. 4 mercenaries in a factory. 1 Marine who'd rebuilt it in his mind. The first set-piece engagement occurred in the main assembly hall, where precision manufacturing equipment created a 3-dimensional maze of tactical positions. The mercenaries held firepower advantage, but their opponent controlled terrain, timing, and technical systems they didn't understand. Muzzle flashes strobed through mechanical shadows as automatic weapons fire chewed through expensive machinery. Sparks showered from severed electrical connections, while hydraulic fluid sprayed from ruptured lines, creating slippery surfaces that turned professional movement into treacherous navigation. "Contact left," one operator called, then screamed as a robotic welding arm activated beneath his position, plasma torch burning through tactical gear. The plant fought for him, valves hissing, steam blinds dropping, steel catwalks singing under boots. Assembly line conveyors became moving platforms for rapid tactical repositioning. Overhead cranes provided elevated firing positions that traditional military training hadn't anticipated. 2 mercenaries down, 2 remaining. But the real engagement was just beginning. Victoria's tactical knowledge proved crucial as her condition stabilized enough for limited participation. From her position in the Secure Communication Center, she provided real-time intelligence about building systems the former Marine could exploit. Manufacturing Wing has compressed air systems. Main valve control is behind the yellow panel, 2nd level, she transmitted through their secure channel. Sudden decompression will create flash freeze effects in a 20-foot radius. Copy. What about the chemical storage tanks? Industrial solvents, eastern wall, non-toxic but highly volatile. Vapor cloud would disrupt their night vision equipment. The partnership extended beyond crisis management into tactical collaboration. CEO and operator, officer's daughter, and enlisted veteran working together with the natural coordination of people who understood military culture and shared objectives. Her knowledge made their situation survivable. His skills made victory possible. The enemy leader's tactical assessment had evolved from routine extraction to survival situation. His remaining operator was wounded, communication with external support remained compromised, and their target had demonstrated capabilities that exceeded anything in their intelligence briefing. "We're dealing with special operations," he transmitted to his partner. "Advanced technical knowledge, intimate facility familiarity, capability to coordinate multiple tactical systems simultaneously." Worse, their opponent had turned the building's industrial equipment into an extension of his defensive capabilities. Every piece of machinery could potentially become a weapon, every automated system a trap waiting for the unwary. Standard mercenary tactics assumed superiority through firepower and professional training. This situation required adaptation to an environment where traditional advantages meant nothing against someone who'd spent years preparing for exactly this scenario. The hunter had definitely become the hunted. Time to end this before their quarry gained additional tactical advantages through prolonged engagement. "Full assault," the leader ordered. "No more games. We finish this now." The main production floor erupted into industrial warfare as heavy machinery became both cover and weapon in the final engagement. Assembly line robots swung beyond program parameters, their welding torches creating barriers of superheated plasma that forced the advancing mercenaries into predictable kill zones. A hydraulic press slammed shut, bone-crushing, missing the operative by inches as he dove behind a conveyor. Sparks cascaded from severed power lines, while compressed air systems vented with explosive decompression. creating localized blizzards that turned thermal imaging into useless static. "He's controlling everything," the wounded mercenary shouted over the mechanical chaos. "The whole factory's turned against us." Their quarry materialized from behind a massive lathe, pipe wrench spinning in a calculated arc that connected with the injured operator's weapon. The assault rifle clattered across steel grating as its owner crumpled, unconscious before hitting the ground. 2 down, 2 to go. The building's defender vanished back into the industrial maze, leaving only the echo of machinery and the smell of ozone from electrical shorts. The pursuit moved vertical as the remaining mercenaries climbed toward the facility's upper levels, where catwalks and crane systems created a 3-dimensional battlefield 40 feet above the production floor. Metal grating rang under tactical boots, while overhead trolleys moved unpredictably, their automated patterns disrupted by sabotaged control systems. There, the team leader's weapon tracked movement across the opposite walkway, muzzle flashes strobing through steam from ruptured pipes. Bullets sparked off steel railings, ricocheting through the superstructure with dangerous unpredictability. But their target wasn't retreating. He was climbing higher, using maintenance ladders and crane cables to ascend toward the facility's roof access. Each level gain provided new tactical advantages, better sight lines, additional environmental controls, proximity to the building's most vulnerable systems. The overhead crane's main arm swung without warning, its massive hook carving through space where the second mercenary had been standing. He rolled desperately along the narrow catwalk, weapon fire going wild as survival instinct overwhelmed tactical discipline. The former Marine looked down at the factory floor 4 stories below. Time to fly. The final confrontation occurred on the building's uppermost level, where skylights and ventilation systems provided natural light and multiple escape routes. But escape was no longer the objective. This had become about more than survival. It was about family, honor, the sacred trust between protector and protected. The mercenary leader possessed superior firepower and professional training, but he was fighting in an environment where those advantages meant nothing against someone who'd spent 3 years studying every structural detail, every mechanical system, every tactical possibility. "You're good," the leader admitted, circling warily around the central air conditioning unit. "Special forces, definitely. Which unit?" "The kind that doesn't exist on paper." The response came from 3 different directions simultaneously, ventilation acoustics creating phantom echoes that masked true position. "Doesn't matter. 1 man against professional operators. Mathematics favors the team. Tell that to the 2 sleeping beauties downstairs." The leader's tactical headset crackled with incoming transmission. "External response team, ETA 10 minutes. Federal jurisdiction special operations backup requested. 10 minutes. Too long for extraction, too short for completion of primary mission. Time to end this engagement and salvage what remained of the operation." The explosive device attached to his tactical vest represented final insurance. If he couldn't eliminate the target and complete the mission, he could at least deny the enemy a victory. 3 wires, 30 seconds. Someone's daughter was counting on this being handled correctly. Combat demolitions training proved invaluable as steady hands worked through the device's triggering mechanism while gunfire chewed through ventilation ducting overhead. Blue wire to timer circuit, red wire to primary charge, green wire to backup detonator. Standard military ordnance, probably sourced from the same defense contractors who'd employed these mercenaries before they went private. Familiar enough for someone who'd spent 2 tours disarming improvised explosive devices in hostile territory. 30 seconds, the leader called from his barricaded position. "Even if you kill me, this place goes up. Your precious CEO dies anyway." "Wrong wire," came the calm reply as metal snips severed the device's primary connection. "Try again." He pinched the blasting cap between 2 knuckles, habit from a second tour, then killed the backup initiator with a neat twist. The explosion never came. Instead, silence descended over the building as automated systems gradually returned to normal operation, emergency lighting switching back to standard illumination, hydraulic systems resuming their regular rhythms. Federal tactical teams would find 4 unconscious mercenaries zip-tied with industrial restraints, classified technology intact, and a CEO whose life had been saved by someone officially employed to empty trash bins and mop floors. The countdown timer stopped at 0:03. Close enough. For the first time all night, Victoria's voice cracked, not from pain, but relief. "Mommy, the ghost man saved you." Victoria gathered her daughter with arms that shook from more than just physical trauma. Through her injuries and exhaustion, she watched the man who'd protected them both accept medical attention with the stoic patience of someone accustomed to field hospitals and combat wounds. "Thank you," she called across the organized chaos of federal response teams and corporate security briefings. He nodded once, soldier to officer's family, protector to protected, one parent acknowledging another's gratitude for keeping their child safe. No words necessary. The debt was understood. The tactical communications network crackled with Alice's voice, clear and proud across the static. "Daddy, did you win?" "We all won, sweetheart. The bad guys are going away, the nice lady is safe, and her little girl gets to go home with her mommy." "Are you coming home now?" He looked around the facility he'd cleaned for 3 years, now forever changed by violence and revelation. The Invisible Man's cover was blown, his carefully constructed civilian identity compromised beyond repair. But Alice was safe. Emma was safe. Victoria was alive. The mission parameters that actually mattered had been achieved. "Yeah, honey, Daddy's coming home." Through the building's industrial maze, federal agents processed evidence while medics treated injuries, and corporate executives dealt with security breaches that would require months to fully understand. But in the end, it came down to something simple: a father keeping his promise to come home to his daughter. The factory was silent except for 2 little girls laughing on the radio. Federal debriefing sessions could wait until morning. For now, Victoria focused on the man who'd saved her life, accepting congratulations from agents who understood the tactical significance of what they'd witnessed. No celebrity, no grandstanding, just quiet professionalism from someone who'd done his job and wanted to go home to his daughter. "Mr. Thorne will require security clearances commensurate with his demonstrated capabilities," she told the lead federal investigator. Any media attention could compromise his family's safety. The official response would list the incident as industrial accident with foreign sabotage elements. Corporate espionage gone wrong, security measures working as designed, no individual heroics worth public attention. Her influence as a defense contractor with government connections ensured that narrative stuck. Sometimes protecting people meant controlling their story. The janitor had saved her life. Now Victoria would save his anonymity. 3 weeks later, the conversation happened in her office, the same space where professional killers had demanded classified technology and threatened her daughter's life. But bulletproof glass had been installed, security protocols upgraded, and most importantly, the right person now occupied the position of Chief Security Officer. "The job comes with a signing bonus equal to 3 years' maintenance salary," Victoria explained, sliding the contract across her desk. "Health insurance for both you and Alice. College fund contributions, flexible schedule that prioritizes family time." He read the terms carefully. Former Marine assessing the tactical situation from every angle. This isn't charity. No, it's not. It's recognition of demonstrated capability and proven loyalty. You've already proven you can protect what matters to this company. She gestured toward the photo of Emma on her desk. "I'm offering you the resources to do it officially." The security position meant visibility, responsibility, the end of 3 years spent hiding in plain sight. But it also meant Alice could be proud of her father's work, instead of wondering why Daddy seemed sad after his cleaning job. "When do I start?" 6 months later, the elementary school parking lot hosted an unusual sight. 2 single parents coordinating carpools while their daughters planned sleepovers, with the easy friendship of children who'd survived something extraordinary together. Alice and Emma were already planning adventures, their bond forged through radio conversations during the scariest night of their young lives. The adults were planning everything else: practical considerations like merged households, shared responsibilities, and the kind of partnership built on mutual respect rather than convenience. "What would you have done differently that night?" Victoria asked during one of their evening conversations. "Called for backup sooner," he answered without hesitation. But then again, backup had a 9-year-old's bedtime routine to maintain. Their laughter carried across the playground where 2 daughters played, secure in the knowledge that their parents protected important things and would always come home safely. Sometimes the best families are the ones you choose when everything else falls apart and discover they were worth fighting for all along. What would you have done in that situation? Rate this story and let me know if you'd like to hear about what happens when these 2 families officially become one.